Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Matt Leaf and I'm the Director of the Officiating Education Program. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Officiating ZoomCast on the Mentor Program or the Mentor Project. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time tonight, thank you very much for finding us. And for those of you that have attended either one of the first two episodes, thank you for coming back and hopefully we'll have some good discussion tonight. Want to introduce our panelists tonight. First of all, a gentleman by the name of Eric Simmons. Eric is started officiating in 1971 at the age of 10 years old. He got a few years in at that point and then returned in 2003 because he wanted to officiate with his son. He's been the Alaska referee-in-chief since 2014 and has worked several state championships, district championships as a level 4 official. And in his real job, he's in school administration and teaching up there in Alaska. So Eric, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And please go ahead and say a few words to welcome the group.
Yeah, you're welcome, Matt. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to see as many participants as I see down there in the tally. Glad you could find some time in your evening, or in my case, late afternoon, mid-afternoon out here in Alaska to join us. And this is a subject that I'm very passionate about, the mentor system. I think it's a key to why we have quality young officials and the key to how we can retain more young officials and even adult officials. Doesn't have to be young. I look forward to a good conversation and feel free to ask questions throughout the ZoomCast.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Our second panelist tonight has been a USA Hockey official for over 30 years. He's also been a NCAA Division I official for both Hockey East and the ECAC, and spent 15 years in the American Hockey League as a linesman and recently retired in 2016. He is a graduate of all of our summer development programs, and has also come back to instruct at various summer camps over the last several years. Maybe the highlight of his career, he was an IHF licensed official, worked 5 world championships, including 4 medal games, 2 gold medal games and 2 bronze medal games, and was our linesman representative at the 2006 Winter Olympic Games in Turin, Italy. Right now he's in his 3rd season, or starting his 3rd season as a referee-in-chief for the Connecticut Hockey Conference, the affiliate in Connecticut in the New England District. And we certainly welcome Kevin to tonight's session, and I'd like to give him a few seconds to say a few words.
Sure, thanks, Matt. I'll just echo real quickly what Eric said, right, about the mentor program. I think it's going to be a great way for us to, retain the new officials that are coming in, get them to that 2nd and 3rd year, and really help them blossom. We've got some interesting things that we've done here in the state of Connecticut with regard to new officials, and then getting them on the ice and providing them some on-ice instruction in our own kind of local mentoring program. So I'm happy to talk about that, as well as talk about maybe a little bit kind of what I kind of refer to as like an accidental mentor, I guess, if you would say, to say how you can kind of latch on to people, and there's this innate kind of ability or need or want to help other people, and so how can you help? What your responsibility is as a mentor to help develop those new officials. So looking forward to tonight. We got a high bar set compared to some of the previous ZoomCasts. So looking forward to it.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Just a quick reminder for those of you who do have questions or have some questions that you want to generate throughout the course of the session, you can use the Q&A session that's at the bottom of the Zoom feed there to send that question into the panelists. We'll be monitoring it as the night goes on, and really the format that we're going to try to take here is we have a quick poll that we want to run. We want to gather some feedback from you in terms of what may be happening in your respective areas and what your background is. We'll then have a quick presentation, about 15 minutes or so, that explains what USA Hockey is trying to establish with a mentor program, and how important it is to the success of the officiating program as a whole, but more importantly to those new officials who join our ranks. And then we'll open it up for some questions to wrap up the hour here. So I'm in the process here putting up a poll. I think there's 4 or 5 questions that we'd like you to answer and give us some feedback on. Take a minute or so to do this. Once you've answered each one of those questions and you scroll down to the bottom, you'll have a chance to submit. And that'll submit all of your answers. We'll calculate the results real quickly, and we'll be able to share that with you real quickly before we move on. So let's take about 45, 60 seconds here to go ahead and answer the poll questions, please. Okay, let's take a quick look at the results here. How long have you been a hockey official? Looks like Kevin and Eric, we have a lot of potential mentors here. So this is a good opportunity for us to lay the groundwork for the help that we're going to need from them throughout the season. Looks like the little bit of a majority had help when they first got started. They had someone that took them under their wings. And we'd like to ultimately get that up moving forward up to 100%. As far as whether a mentor program is used in your area, it's split pretty evenly between yes and no, and a good chunk of just simply not sure. The 4th question most accurately reflects how an officiating mentor program may impact the success and the experience for a new official. It's a significant factor. It's not the only one, but if done properly, it certainly can contribute to the success of a new official. So thank you very much for that feedback. This is important for us to be able to gear our programs towards the needs of our individual members, and very much look forward to sharing that information with our district referees and chiefs. Now, getting into the presentation real quick. Let me just do a slideshow. Just want to take quickly a few minutes here as to what the Mentor Project is about, why it is important to USA Hockey, and where we see this fitting in going down in the future, and those types of things. So what's our problem? What's the main issue here? The primary issue is that we lose 50% of our brand new officials who do not return for their second season of officiating. And that's pretty significant. And even if we can find ways to increase that up to 60%, that's an additional 800 to 900 new officials that return to our program and become more experienced and be an integral part of what we're able to do. The neat thing is data has shown that if we keep the official around through the first 2 seasons, okay, and we can get them registered and get them started in season 3, that retention rate goes up to about 90%. So those first 2 years, and that first year especially, is extremely critical to the success that we have with officiating, and ultimately to be able to grow our program and to be able to make it a little bit better and increase our pool of experienced officials. Want to share a quick video here with you. This is from Kevin Collins. Obviously, I think everyone is mostly familiar with Kevin. 28 years as an NHL linesman, worked 12 Stanley Cup Final Series, and was a 2017 inductee into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. So hopefully this will play properly, and you can get some words of wisdom from Kevin.
We need to protect these, if we're going to use young officials at this age, with the way society is today, we got to become mentors. Especially if you get an assignment with your buddy, you know, you both, two of you, or you know, whatever, 3-man system, 4-man system, you guys are all working together, you're doing a game. Okay, you've been through it all. You work your game, you get off the game, you go do what you got to do. You might talk about the game after, or maybe not. But if you get an assignment with a young official, I'm asking you, well, I'm calling all of you out. It's time for you to give back. We need to take care of these young officials if we're going to keep. I'm beside myself. I want to say you can't start using officials at 12 and 13 and 14, but maybe, times have changed. But if we're going to do that, and you get an assignment with that kid, you got to be the one to be there for him. You got to be the one to let them spread their wings and learn how. All right, the coaches, we all learned about that. All right. So when the comments up here where young officials, we got to let them fly. We got to let them have their space. By all means, on the ice, they have to learn to deal with the coaches. But we need to be there when they come off the ice, when parents are around. We got to protect them. And I'm asking you to play a part to save our game and the future of it.
So what are some of the solutions? And Kevin Collins just hit on it right there. He's very, very passionate about mentoring and taking newer officials under our wings. So we're really going to emphasize what we're calling the Mentor Project for this upcoming season and beyond. And it's essentially similar to a Big Brother, Big Sister program for brand new ice hockey officials. And we're asking experienced officials, those that likely have 5 years of experience or more, to be assigned and to, within their local areas, be assigned to serve as a big brother, big sister to a group of brand new officials. They'll be introduced to them at the seminar or shortly thereafter. They'll help them, guide them through the registration process, possibly do a open book exam review session, remind them to get the modules done and assist them through them, and ultimately maybe even work the first few games on the ice with them. What are some of the expectations of the mentors? Again, organize and schedule an open book exam review session and help facilitate completion of all other registration requirements. One of the other concerns that we have is that only 65% of new officials, brand new officials, end up completing their registration. So they don't even have a chance to get out on the ice because we can't get them complete. If they have someone that's there as a support network and someone that they can count on and rely on to help them, guide them through those requirements, help them through that process and get them completed and have a card and crest in their hand, that's going to open up the opportunities from an assignment standpoint and get them out on the ice and hopefully having some success. They'll also assist them with the new official in navigating the assignment availability process. The reality is we know that there's a lot of assigners that are out there that are going to fill games with the officials that they know. New officials that are currently still playing probably have limited availability, and it takes an extra effort from that assigner to be able to find the games, the lower level games, the house, the recreational games, to be able to put them in. So being able to have that mentor be the point of contact and to work with that assigner to help them and to possibly set up the situation where they're working their first few games together is a win-win for both the assigner and for the new official as well. And we hope that this will be an ongoing process where the mentor continues to check in, maybe at the rinks, maybe through text messages or through phone calls throughout the season to provide some feedback and some support, work with the assigners to provide some continuing opportunity through evaluation where that new official can work their way up the progression development ladder so they're not stuck working the 10 and under rec games or house games at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning every week. They get a chance to spread their wings and once they're ready to move up that ladder a little bit and start getting challenged at some little higher levels of maybe the U12 or the U10 travel with a seasoned partner. So there's a lot of opportunities there to create, to assist that new official in creating a more positive environment and making it more likely for them to stick around. Some of the expectations of that new official is embrace the fact that that mentor is there to help and to be a support network and to be someone that they can count on to help them through this process and to set them up for success on the ice. They need to commit to work hard on and off the ice to maximize their performance and set themselves up for success. If they're not going to put in the effort, if they're not going to have any type of skin in the game, so to speak, the chances of them being successful with or without a mentor go down dramatically. So we're going to need them to make that commitment as well to work both on and off the ice. Respect the game, take the rules seriously, and have some pride in terms of what they do when they go out on the ice. When they have a bad day on the ice, feel free to contact your mentor to discuss and to work through the solutions to help avoid similar bad days in the future. They also need to let the mentor know when they had a good day on the ice and to let them know that, you know what, that was a really good game. I had a lot of fun out there. And what are the things that we can do to make sure that every one of my officiating experiences share that same success. And finally, they need to thank their mentor at the end of the season and remind him or her that they're going to be ready to do it all over again the next season and continue that support network beyond that first year. Maybe it's keep the lines of communication open the following summer. Maybe work some spring leagues or some summer league games together, and especially work up that progression ladder a little bit, and make sure that they are aware of what they need to do from a registration process and get an early start on that the next season so they can make that next step in their development. What are the results we're hoping for and or expecting? Once again, improved opportunities with new officials to work with assigners and have the opportunity to get out on the ice. A lot of new officials, they do complete, but they simply don't have an opportunity to get on the ice because the assigner is not working with them, and especially with their limited availability. Improve the culture in which that new official is working games, and hopefully they get that satisfaction that the rest of us get when they go out and have a job that's well done. And finally, improving the retention rates. As I've indicated earlier, if we can just improve that retention rate from 50% to 60% over the course of 3 years, that's 2,500 new experienced officials that join our pool to release a little bit of the stress that is currently at the higher levels and really create opportunities for the officials to grow and advance. One other thing, the last thing I just want to touch on real quickly is there's also been in some areas what we call a shadow program that has been very successful. They use it here in Colorado Springs, and every new official each season, their first 5 games out on the ice in the 3 official system, regardless of what level it is usually Squirt House, maybe some Pee Wee House, or Squirt Rec. Those first 5 games that they work, they'll be shadowed on the ice as a lines person. And then later on in the season, when they start refereeing, they'll also be shadowed as a referee at some point as well. And it's become very, very effective in terms of setting them up for success and letting them, the new officials, build some confidence. Essentially what happens is the experienced official goes out on the ice with the younger officials in a game environment, and they shadow or follow those that official or both officials around the ice, giving pointers and providing some immediate feedback. They're not necessarily responsible for calling the game unless something gets totally out of whack. They let the officials do that, the new officials, but they're there to support. They're there to help them learn and give immediate feedback to create a relatively positive environment for them. So that is real quickly what USA Hockey is focusing on for this season, and a big point of emphasis with the creation of the Mentor Project And with that, I want to get us started here with a little bit of discussion. Eric, could you take a few minutes here and explain some of the things that you're doing and your colleagues up in Alaska are doing with the new officials to create some success?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. It's interesting because we rolled out a mentor program in Alaska about 5 years ago, and it was an optional thing. We gave all first year new officials the option of having a mentor. Some of them had had a mentor already in mind, a big brother, a neighbor, some coach, whatever. But over the years, it's evolved to where right now it's a mandatory thing. All of my brand new level 1 officials are assigned a mentor. They have the option to pick a mentor. A lot of young kids are brought into officiating either through a parent or a brother or even a teammate that maybe a 15-year-old Bantam teammate or a 14-year-old Bantam teammate that's been officiating for a couple of years and convinces his line mate to do it. And us as a staff have to evaluate if this mentor is going to be an appropriate age mix, if it's going to be somebody that we want mentoring a young kid, if it's an adult. I have a young level 3 official up here who is on the way to heading to the camp for USA Hockey this summer until this COVID thing interrupted everything. But he actually mentored his brother, who was, I think, 7 or 8 years older than him as a young adult, and it was a fantastic combination. But the proof is in the numbers. In my 5-year history in Alaska running a mentor program, our retention rates have skyrocketed. The success is, it merits what USA Hockey's doing. It's proven if you do it right, if you find the right mentors, if the mentees know what to expect, just fantastic. And I'm so excited that USA Hockey is going to put it on a platform at a national level.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Kevin, in your role with the Connecticut Hockey Conference as a referee in chief, I know that you've made a pretty strong commitment to help new officials in the state of Connecticut. What are some of the things that you and your colleagues are doing?
Sure, we have a couple of different ways that we help new officials kind of get on the ice and stay on the ice. One is that when we have new officials come into a seminar, new level 1 officials come to their first level 1 seminar, we put them in contact with a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Woodman, who's our new official coordinator for the state. And he's kind of a mentor of sorts, if you can almost think about it, kind of an administrative mentor, right? So he's not the person that goes down the ice. He's the one that helps him to say, hey, did you complete your online modules, right? Have you finished your open book test? And he kind of shepherds them through the whole registration process. And then once they're through that process, he hands them off to one of the local assigning groups. And then if that assigning group has a mentor program, they will then enter the mentor program there, where the focus will then be on the ice, right? So we take care of the administrative stuff first, and then we get them into a mentor program where they can focus on developing their on ice skills. One of the programs that we have, our ice hockey officials in Northern Connecticut assigning group, has a formal program where new officials will come in, and they'll have to do a couple of different games with mentors. And it may not be the same mentor. It could be the same mentor. It could be something different. But there's an evaluation process and communication process that happens between the protege and the mentor there to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to move up to the next levels, right? To graduate from that mentor program and be able to work by themselves. One of the things we do is it's a twist on the shadow program, in the sense that protege goes out on the ice with the mentor, right? And it starts with an introduction to the coaches and say, hey, there's 3 of us on the ice. We usually work a 2-man system in Connecticut. There's 3 of us on the ice. Here's my protege here. He's learning just like you have, players that are learning. We have to have an environment that we can learn in as well. I, as kind of the mentor, will start the game off, right, and say, okay, and the protege is going to shadow me, and I'll basically do a play-by-play as I'm moving in. I'll describe what I'm doing and say, hey, I'm moving into the goal line. I'm taking up position on home base here. Oh, play's moving into the corner. Now it's coming my way. I'm going to back out. Headed up the boards. I don't want to get beyond the hash marks, and just kind of do that play-by-play so they know what we're thinking, right? I'm reading play. I'm moving out of the zone. I got to get to the blue line, right? So we're kind of planting those seeds in their head. As the game goes on, there's, during stoppages or between periods, that conversation will happen between the protege and the mentor. and we'll say, are you comfortable now stepping, right? So we're looking for a switch. So that mentor, me, the experienced official, will now say, I'm going to be your shadow, right? And I'm going to follow you. And you tell me what you're doing, right? If they can kind of think and skate and chew gum at the same, blow a whistle at the same time, right? But help them, right? So if they're the lead official, if they're doing their thing and they've got the call, but they need little tweaks like positioning on the blue line, we can be a little voice in their ear, right? And eventually, if things go well, then we'll eventually distance ourselves from that official. And if all goes well, we end up like in the third period, we might go sit in a scorekeeper's box, in a penalty box, right? And just let them do their thing. Some officials will get through that mentor program in one game. They go from, yeah, okay, I know the game. Now I know how to view it as an official, and I can execute and get kind of the blessings of the mentor to move out. Other officials take a little bit more time, right? If the mentor and the protege kind of talk and say, hey, we're not quite ready yet, we need another game or two, then that report goes back to the scheduler and say, okay, you're still in the mentor system. We're going to get you another game with another mentor. There's communication that happens between the mentors so that we get different eyes on it, right? So I might work with a protege and I make my notes and I give them to the scheduler, and then another mentor might work, right? You might have a different perspective on how that protege is doing, and there may be some different things that maybe I didn't pick up, or that kind of we can round out that game, that protege's game. So the idea is that we develop that protege in a safe environment, give them the tools that they need to know, make sure that they move up, that we're comfortable with them moving up, and that they're comfortable with moving up, and then that's kind of when they graduate the mentor program and can officiate without that shadow on their own as well. So it's kind of taking it from the administrative, off the ice, all the way through to on ice.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, Kevin, and that's it sounds like a very comprehensive program. Now, is this a statewide, or is this? I know you have a couple different associations in Connecticut.
Yeah, we have.
How do you break that up?
Sorry, we have 6 local assigning groups. Not all of them have mentor programs. We have some of the bigger programs do have that. The one I was describing was kind of the more advanced and the more formal one. We're trying to use that. We're trying to use that as a model, right? We'll have to combine the stuff that we're doing with that program along with the mentor project and say, what does a sweet spot look like for us, right? If we're going to have to, tweak this, one of the things that I can see coming out of this is, when you kind of get that go ahead and that green light to get out of the mentor program, just because you can skate on your own doesn't mean we cut the cord and that you're done, right? That there's got to be an ongoing relationship, an ongoing partnership, so that we work through that first year, maybe that second year. So I think that's one of the tweaks that happens. So between what we have in one of our associations, as well as what's coming down from national for the mentor project, we do want to make that kind of a statewide thing so that we can get all of our officials. We don't have big disparities. We're able to move people around and give them opportunities no matter where they are in the state.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you face, Eric, or what do you see as the challenges?
Well, as I've tried to push my program to other districts, I've had district referees from states like Massachusetts, which has 10 times the number of officials that I have in the state of Alaska. And the big question is always will it work in a bigger market? Will it work? And interestingly enough, you just have to tweak it to make it work. Alaska's interesting. We have 90% of the hockey, 90% of the teams, 90% of the officials all happen in Anchorage, Alaska, the city. And then the other 10% is spread out over a geographical area that's, about a third of the size of the United States. I've got, officials in Fairbanks. I've got officials out on an island named Kodiak. I've got officials, up in Barrow on the North Slope. And so the programs are all different, but the emphasis is the same. Find the right mentor, get them on the ice. And we do the same thing. We walk our officials all the way through the registration process. That's part of the goal is, in fact, we actually have a monetary reward at the end of it. If you get your mentor, your mentee through his seminar, if you get him through his open book test, if you get him through his modules, if you get him registered, you get him on the ice, you've shadowed him on the ice, if you follow all the steps and you knock that off where he becomes an active participating official in that season, we actually have a monetary award, that we give to that mentor. It's interesting to listen how it happens around other parts of the country, but in reality, if you break it down, whether it's a huge city like Boston or a little town like Fairbanks, Alaska, the program is basically boils down to the one-on-one, the mentor and the mentee, and that relationship, that trust, that follow through. You got to find the right people to do that, because It's one thing to get a kid through his modules, get him on the ice, shadow him one time, and then walk away from him. But if you don't follow up, if you don't check with him, periodically and find out how he's doing, if you don't listen to him when he's had a bad game and try to talk him through those experiences, if you don't praise him, and I mentor 3 or 4 kids a year, and I'll just happen to be at the rink doing a game for myself and look over on the other sheet of ice, and there's one of the kids I mentored. It may have been that season, it may have been the season before, and I'll sit and watch, and maybe it's near the 3rd period. I can hang around long enough at the end of the game, talk to him, give him some pointers, tell him what a great job he's doing. But building those relationships, that's the key to the whole thing, is making it personal, build the relationships, have the follow through. It's critical to the whole thing. You got to find good mentors, and we got to lean on, like we looked at the little thing, the chart that you had up earlier, Matt. We have a lot of experienced officials here, 10 or more years. You're the guys that are going to make this work. You're the driving force. You're clearly passionate about our sport. You're, at 8 o'clock at night on the East Coast right now, watching a broadcast, a webinar about mentoring. You're the key to this thing, making it work, finding the way for it to fit in your area. Like Kevin said, finding that sweet spot. What's going to be the best thing for my program, regardless of the size of the program.
Yeah, I'll take the first question from the audience here, and I'll take this was along the lines of the 65% of the new officials who get complete through the registration, and the fact that 35% do not complete. Is there any, and the question is essentially, is there anything that we can do or USA Hockey is doing to try to address that? I think, yeah, we're constantly looking at ways to potentially streamline the registration process, and for all levels. And we have several committees, subcommittees that are working at looking at those types of things. I think really what it boils down to is there's 2 things that are involved specifically with the level 1 officials, because everyone else has about, all the other levels have about a 85 to 95% completion rate. With the new officials, there's 2 things that are involved. Number 1 is that they don't necessarily read the emails that are sent to them or the information that's sent to them. And they're simply not aware of what some of those requirements are. And then the second thing is maybe they go to the seminar and they realize, you know what, this isn't for me. This isn't something that that I think I want to pursue. And we're hoping that through this mentor program, and Kevin even alluded to, they kind of sort of even have someone in Connecticut that does the admin side of it right at the start to help those officials and to guide them and make sure they're aware of those requirements and the educational component that is involved with becoming an official, that they're creating that skin in the game, and also to help them, guide them through that, to make sure that they get those things done. So there's a lot of things that we're constantly trying and we're looking at, but we do see the mentor program here as being a very, very positive step in terms of building that relationship that we've all mentioned, and providing that support and providing that guidance to get them through that step and get them to the point where they're going to be on the ice. Second question, I guess, for Kevin. Would you also use the mentor program for new adult referees, or is it exclusive to kids?
Oh, no, absolutely. Age is kind of not a factor in ours. So if we have somebody that say is maybe 25, 30, 35 years old, higher, that's coming in and saying, hey, this is something I want to do. Yeah, get you into the mentor program, right? So mentor doesn't have anything to do with age. It just has to do with experience. So absolutely. Okay.
Thanks. Eric, how about if I send this one your way? Is USA Hockey proposing an overall mentoring system run on a national level, or are they asking the local levels to basically put together programs that fit their needs?
So it's not, it can't be cookie cutter, and it can't be one size fit all. What the USA national office is trying to do is offer a platform in which you can modify and build your program. So it's incumbent on, the heartbeat of your local organization, the guys that drive it, the train, the guys that are there all the time, the guys that want to put the effort in, the guys that are passionate. And USA Hockey will provide whatever support you need in that. I'll support. I'm the RIC in Alaska, but if somebody from Southeast District wants to get a hold of me and say, hey, I've got I'm the local supervisor for local organization. I have X number of officials, what should my program look like? I'll help you design that. And so won't the national office do that. So yeah, absolutely. It's going to be incumbent on the individual smaller units to make it happen, but USA Hockey is here to provide whatever support you need to help get that done.
So Kevin, you, if I remember correctly, you do a little protege / a shadow type of environment where you have an extra official that's out on the ice working with the new officials. How is that received by the teams? What type of challenges or what type of concerns do you have by the leagues or the teams? The person asking the question here indicates that they've suggested that in their own local area, but essentially the local youth hockey organization doesn't want the extra body on the ice. They're paying for the officials and they rejected the idea. That was even at the house league level. So how do we combat that attitude, and how do we get the local youth hockey organizations to buy onto the concept?
Yeah, so I'll kind of answer that in two parts. One, the having the extra official on the ice. When we do it, we put our mentor. He goes out in kind of black, so he's not wearing the black and white. So you know who the officials are on the ice. They're the officials that are in stripes, right? But it's that pregame conversation with the coaches, right? And we don't go out and do 14 U games. These are like 10 U games, at a C level or a B level. So you don't have the Stanley Cup riding on this thing. You don't have scholarships riding on this, right? It's a very low risk environment. And we very deliberately have those conversations with the coaches and tell them what's going on. I haven't run into any kind of objection to doing that as a learning environment. People get it, right? And it's funny because the coaches will actually kind of check themselves. Like when something happens, it's a 10U B level squirt game and there's an offside that gets missed, right? And the coach might start to come unglued and go, oh, wait a minute, that's right, just learning, right? This isn't the Stanley Cup and this is a person that's just learning, right? We try to minimize those, right? We can, if we see it as a mentor, we can blow that down and get some instructions. But to get back to the topic, we haven't really seen any resistance from the coaches and players to actually having a third body on the ice. The other part of the answer, though, is cash is king, right? So it's about money and be able to say, hey, I want you, the organization, to pay to train these officials. There's two ways to look at that. One is no officials, no games, right? So we got to have a pipeline. We got to develop the pipeline and convince them that us developing new officials is good for them, because you're going to see them in these 10U, B level game. And in a couple of years, we're hoping that they're doing the 12 and 14, maybe a tier 2, maybe a tier 1, so that we can get them in and get new blood in the system. So there's some incentive for them to participate in the program. The financial part of it is we work with the local organizations to say, okay, we need to be able to make the mentor have some incentive for the mentor to do it, as well as the mentee, right? So or the protege, right? So there's funds that come available through the membership fees that come from the local organizations that will say, hey, we'll kick in some money towards the mentor to do this, right? And maybe we'll decrease the protege's fee by $5 or $10, but they'll still get paid, right? So it's kind of a cost neutral to the programs to get that third official on the ice. Now, that being said, that kind of limits how much we can do it because there's budget out there. We can't run all the new officials through 5 or 6 different games because that becomes cost prohibitive. So we try to get them to graduate, but we try to keep it cost neutral and fund that through the local organizations. You're on mute, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Next question for Eric. Their local area, they see that the new official, they're pretty good at calling the lines and the icings and face-offs and those types of things. But what do we have to do to get that brand new official to raise their arm for the first time and start calling penalties?
We do something very similar to what Kevin does, and this is going to hold true whether you run a mentor program or not. You go watch a brand new level 1 official work in a game, maybe with a 2nd or 3rd year official, and it's his first game and he doesn't have a mentor program. Is he any more likely or less likely to call a penalty at that point? Probably not, right? It's going to be the same as that kid. His comfort zone, his how he feels about putting that whistle in his mouth, becoming the focal point, drawing the attention to himself to make that penalty. So in the shadow program, you're in his ear. We do something similar to what Kevin does. We go out in a black jacket. We skate around. I haven't tried the reverse like Kevin does, where I officiate and my mentee watches me. I'm in his hip pocket. A lot of times I'm actually holding on to the back of his jersey and I'm moving him around the ice and I'm in his ear and I'm talking to him. And if I see an obvious blatant call, early in the game, I'll be in his ear. Throw your arm up, wait for possession, get a whistle. Talk him through that first time. And what I have found is that if you can get him through the first couple of calls, that's all he needs. He's on his own. If he likes it, if it's something for him, and I'll caveat everything we say in this discussion today, officiating is not for everyone. There are going to be, and it kills me, I've had mentees that I can't get into a game. I can't get them to become an official. It's just not for them. Mom signed him up for the seminar, thought it'd be a great idea to make some pocket cash, but it's not his thing. It doesn't fit his personality. He's not going to tune into it. But you get a kid that wants to do it and he wants to be good at it and they want to be successful. Once you get him through those first two calls, it's almost like a switch goes off. You'll see something on the ice, and before you can even get in his ear and tell him, hey, did you see that trip in the corner? His arm's already up. He's already confident. He's done it a couple of times. He knows how to do it. He knows the mechanics, and they're literally off and running. It's pretty extraordinary. And if you don't have a mentor program, how long does it take for that new level 1 official to make those first 2 or 3 calls, to become confident to make all the calls that he needs to make?
I got to agree 100% with what Eric's saying, right? It's riding a bike. Once those training wheels are off and they figure out they can do it, then they're wanting to do it all the time, right? It's absolutely 100%. Those first couple of calls are key. And if you can get in the air, right, you see them throw their arm up and you go, great, you saw that. That's wonderful, right? That gives them the confidence before they even do the signal, right? That, hey, I've got this. I got at least one friend on the ice that's going to appreciate the call.
Okay, this question is kind of for both of you, and there's been a couple of different variations that have come from the audience. It was also something that I had written down on my notes, but you can both take a crack at this. But what's in it for the mentor? What are they basically getting out of it? Is it a monetary? Is it a financial thing, or is there something else that is going to steer that experienced official into being willing to dedicate some time and contribute in this way?
I'll take a crack real quick. There is kind of the monetary piece of it, right? You're not going to get rich doing it, but like I said, we kind of fund it, make it cost neutral. So there is something in for the mentor. I think there's a return also. If you look at the mentors and especially like the people we have on the call with 10 years more experience, right? Is that when the games that come open that are the 16, the 18 U's, the junior games, right? And you have the 10 U's. Now, if you're filling the pipeline, if you're mentoring, you're getting more people into the program, you've got more officials, right? There's less of a stretch on you as an individual official. And this is probably going to come across wrong, but you avoid the burnout, right? So if you're working the 15s, 16s, 18s, the juniors, that there's somebody else that can pick up, the 10 U's, the 12 U's, because you've helped them. You are confident. They're an extension of you, right? So it kind of gives you some breathing room there. And then there's kind of the altruistic piece of it, right? So to be able to look at somebody and say, hey, I helped that guy, right? That official came in, we mentored him. Hey, he's been doing this for 4 years. He's a level 4, he's a level 3, and he's going to camp. So, a couple years he's off working, juniors, or he's off working, Division III college and Division I. That's a little kind of glow in your heart for that type of thing. So the first two are a little bit more tangible, I think. The third one's altruistic, but those are the motivators, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin 100%. You're not going to get rich doing this. And like we have actually game fee. So if my mentee is going to work his first game and it's a U10 tier 4 game house thing, and he's got his partner out there, and I usually try to make sure that the assigner's aware that I'm going to be there. I'm his mentor. He's going to get on this game. He's going to be working with at least another semi-experienced official. We try not to put 2 brand new level 1s on a game. But we have built into our program in Alaska, there's actually a game fee that goes to the mentee or the mentor. The mentee's obviously going to get his game fee. You're going to get a portion of a game fee for doing that game. But you're not going to get rich doing it. If your kid makes it successfully, does his 10 games for the year, and he's continuing to get games at the end of the season, we have a separate cash award that we give to those guys that are successful getting their mentees through the program. But it really does come down to the love of the game. I mean, why do we all do what we do as long as we've done it? All you folks that are on this ZoomCast right now that have been doing it for 10 or more years, you're clearly not, doing it for that second home in the Florida Keys, right? You're doing it to put a little cash in your pocket, and you love the game, right? That's every time I talk to refs. I went to the officiating symposium last year in Minneapolis, and everyone I talked to across the board, that's the bottom line. They do it for the love of the game. They're officiating for the love of the game. And when you can bring that to somebody else, there's no better feeling. My very first young official that I mentored, other than my son, when I brought him up through the program, is currently working for Scott Zelkin in the program. And that's just the greatest feeling when he comes home in the summers and says, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be doing what I was doing if it wasn't for you. That's all I need. And if the next 20 mentees that I take on in the next 5 years, if none of them get to that level, that's okay. If their level is, their elevator button stops at 4 and the highest they go is a Bantam game, but they're excited to do that Bantam game and they love what they do and they become proficient at it, that's why I do it. And that's why it becomes critical when you're looking for mentors, to find the people that are in it for the right reasons. And I said it earlier, refereeing is not for everybody. Fishing is not for everybody. Being a mentor, likewise, it's not for everybody. You got to find the right people that are in it for the right reasons.
Okay, thanks, guys. I want to just shift focus here just for a quick second, because one of the questions we have here on the Q&A line is from a 13-year-old official who is, or a 13-year-old that would like to become a level 1 official. He's already done the modules. He's done what he needs to do and stuff like that, but he's been waiting for the seminar. So when's the seminar is going to be scheduled? And Daniel, I think the best answer I can give you on that is look for something to start getting posted fairly shortly. The referees and chiefs have just basically created and developed the format and the structure for virtual seminars for this season. It's something that we need to do as a result of the pandemic and the COVID-19 situation. So the bottom line is that in early July, look for those seminars to start being posted and have an opportunity to get that requirement done. So hopefully we can get you out on the ice as soon as the season starts. And most importantly, welcome to our officiating team, Daniel. We very much look forward to having you part of our officiating team for a long, long time. And thanks for joining us tonight. And hopefully we'll get one of our finest mentors in the New Jersey area assigned to you so you can have some very, very positive success. Here's a question which brings up another issue, and it's something that the district referees and chiefs are going to continue to try to address. But one of the things that they struggled is they tried to set up a mentor program in their area last year. It was very successful, but the difficulty they really had was getting those new officials games, and some of them only got 4 or 5 games for the entire season. So what type of things are you doing in Alaska or Connecticut to incentivize the assigners to buy in and to take the few extra steps that are necessary to get these new officials out on the ice? Either one can go first.
I'll go first. So we're in an interesting predicament in Alaska. We have just the opposite problem. Our schedulers are chomping at the bit for the new level 1s to get through the mentor program so they can get them on games. We actually have pushed our new level 1 seminars further and further up into the early part of the season so that those kids are all actively officiating by the time tournament seasons roll around and Thanksgiving and Christmas type of time frames. So it's a little bit unique up here, a little bit different. But it's incumbent on you as a mentor to make sure that the assigners understand that this kid is ready. He's ready for this level. He's ready to move up. You should, try to convince the assigners to get him in there. I don't have the problems that I know Kevin's going to talk about. We're in Connecticut. You get an abundance of officials and maybe not an abundance of games, and guys don't get games. It's a shame to hear that story about a kid that only gets 5 or 6 games a year. But we also find out that some of our new level 1 officials, the kids, even though we have an abundance of games, it's a contradiction for them because they're playing still, they're practicing still, they say, oh, I only got 2 games all month. And I'll say, well, you know, how many did you put in for? Well, I could only put in for 4 because I was either playing or practicing, or my mom had other things for me to do. So you're getting half the games you asked for. It's not such a bad, it doesn't look so bad then to hear that he only got 2 games. So that's the problems that we have up here.
Yeah, and in Connecticut, I mean, that is a real problem, right, for us, where we get, you know, we might get a couple hundred new officials in each year. And we got to look at the slots to put them in to say, okay, if we're going to keep these people and get them, like Matt said at the top of the call, to get them to the 3rd year, we have to get them games. If we're not getting them games, right, and let's face it, it's not inexpensive to start officiating, right? You're going to lay down a couple $100 if you're going to go into this stuff for equipment. So you got to make that back. And if you're not, you're going, well, why am I into it? So we got to challenge our assigners, right? And to be able to trust the mentors when they say this guy's ready to go, that challenge them, put it out there, get them on a game, let them go. It's not necessarily sink or swim because we've got that mentor relationship there. But if they say they're ready to go, let's fill the pipeline. Let's get them going. That being said, the challenge is the number of those low-level games. We're trying to get creative. One of the things we've talked about is dipping into like the house leagues and the cross ice, understanding that those aren't the best development opportunities for things like working with a partner or learning icing or positioning. But even if you're doing stuff like learning how to drop a puck, right? Learning how to make turns towards center ice, learning to skate like an official, that gets you on the ice, it gets you the officiating experience. Right, that it keeps you around where you may have said, well, if I'm not going to work those 8U games, I'm only going to work 2 or 3 or 5 10U. I'm going to hang it up the next year. Well, if you're working those 8Us and the 10Us, and you've got a fairly decent schedule out there, the chances are that you make it that next year are better. So we have to be creative. It's a tough problem, right? That we have lots of officials and not enough games, and to try to get them enough to stick around. We got to get creative.
So Eric, we've established the fact that officiating is not for everyone. Obviously, mentoring is not going to be for everyone too. What are some of the qualities that we should be looking for, and the skill set that mentor is going to need to hopefully be successful?
Well, you'd like to say just interested people, but then you have to start culling down from there. So there has to be an interest. I look for, in Alaska, I look for officials that are quality officials, do a good job on their own, that uphold the USA Hockey standard. We have pretty much just USA Hockey up here. We do have Federation for the high school for the upper level guys, but to me, that's the key. If it's somebody that I can go out and evaluate, and I know that they're going to do USA Hockey standard, I know that they're going to move about the ice and be in position as the USA Hockey wants them to be. That guy's got the physical tools to teach and become a good mentor. The willingness to do it. We actually, for our new mentors, anyone that hasn't mentored previously, we actually have a separate session for them. It's about 2 hours long that we do every year for interested mentors, and we talk them through the process of what we're expecting from them, what we're looking for. But just a good ambassador, somebody that's a good ambassador for our sport, somebody that you can be proud to say, I put that person out there to mentor this young person because I think this guy or this gal can do a good job in teaching our game to a new person.
Okay, Kevin, last question for you before we finish up with a final question. As the mentor or the someone that you're expecting to mentor, do you have that individual meet with the parents of the official as well and talk to them about what officiating is all about, or is there focus solely on the individual official?
No, it's definitely a family affair, right? And depending upon the age of the protege there, right? There was an earlier question about older officials. Yeah, we'll take older officials in. Do we need to talk to the wife or to the kids of that older official? Probably not, right? But if I've got somebody coming in that's 10, 11, 12 years old, yeah, and mom is in the locker room with them or sitting outside or something like that, yeah, come on in. Right, because we're gonna first talk about not the nuts and bolts of positioning and all that. We're gonna talk about having fun, right? So if you're doing this and you're not having fun, then we're doing something wrong, right? Either maybe it's not for you or I as a mentor or not doing something right. So yeah, we'll talk to families and before the game or after the game, we'll call mom or dad in and say, hey, here's here's what I saw, right? Here's where I think, ready to graduate, not ready to graduate, so that they can kind of reinforce maybe the feedback that I give them on the way home, or, a day or two later, or in another game, or in a game that they're playing. I think the more we can get engaged with the families, the better chance we have that we'll get that retention, and that we'll get the messages that stick, from game to game and season to season.
Okay, final question for Eric. We have a couple of participants that are in some rather remote areas, and they don't necessarily have a mentor program lined up, but based on the wonderful information that you guys have provided tonight, they are very excited about being able to start something. Or the other part of it is that they're in a remote area and they don't have a whole lot of older experienced officials to choose from to become mentors. How do you connect? Who do you contact to get something started? And how do you connect with some other areas that might be able to provide some assistance with some mentors?
That's a great question, and it's interesting because we've kind of dealt with that. We've opened up a few new hockey areas in Alaska in the last 4 or 5 years, and they're pretty remote, and they don't even have officials that have ever been officials. We went to Kodiak and they started 7 officials their first year. No one had ever been on the ice as an official before, so obviously they don't have that opportunity to mentor. My affiliate is amazing with doing things in my officiating association up here has been amazing in trying to make that work by pooling money and sending folks over. I've sent a group of officials over to Kodiak Island just for that purpose, just to mentor officials and to give them some experience as they were bringing their program online. So reach out to other parts of your state, find out, you'd be surprised if you reach out, if you talk to your state RICs, if you talk to your local supervisors and say, we don't have the experience out here, we don't have anybody that we can utilize as a mentor. See if there's mentors from another area that are willing to come out to your area, work a few games, help people along. You'd be surprised. And if you don't have the financial resources to bring them out and to compensate them to pay for their hotel rooms, reach out to your state, reach out to your affiliates. Most affiliates are passionate. I mean, I've been at USA Hockey meetings and at the winter meetings and at the summer congresses, and it's all I ever hear is that we're behind the officials and we're going to do whatever we can to support the officials, and reach out to them and see if there's things that they can do to assist small markets get the resources that they need to be successful. And you'd be surprised at how many people are willing to do that and help you out. You're on mute again, Matt.
Matt?
There we go. Okay, thank you very much. And unfortunately, we're out of time for this evening. For those, I know we still have a few questions that are hanging out there. We're going to try to get back to you individually with some of those answers at a later time, sometime in the next couple of days. We've also talked about kind of sort of putting up a frequently asked questions with each ZoomCast to basically answer those that we don't get a chance to cover on each one of those specific topics. So continue to go back and look at the ZoomCast page on usahockey.com. And hopefully we'll continue to update with some information and try to get a lot of the great questions answered. Was told I need to put in a plug for the upcoming program, upcoming programs in the ZoomCasts again for the next few Tuesday nights. Next week, our presentation will be on coaching and supervision, coaching officials, not players, and the supervision aspect. Scott Zelkin will be back to moderate that particular session with Keith Cavall, who is part of our junior officiating program and is the coordinator of officials for the North American Hockey League. Dave Madsen is a longtime supervisor for USA Hockey at a variety of different levels, but also has worked at the minor pro level as a supervisor. And then a official who's gone through our program, Andrew Bergerman, who will also be able to provide a little bit of guidance as it relates to the official's perspective on the coaching and the supervision and those types of things. And then after that, the 7th, we'll come in with an officiating program update. We've just finished off our annual Congress. We've got a lot of new and exciting stuff that we need to address going into this next season, and we'll provide an update then. And then on Tuesday, July 14th, will be Ladies' Night with our women's officiating presentation to provide guidance and provide information as to the opportunities that are afforded our female officials. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll continue to update the weekly schedule as those things get finalized. Remember to follow us on social media, USA Hockey Officiating, Twitter and Instagram, and those types of things. I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. It was a really great turnout and some very positive feedback and questions. You will be receiving a survey in the next day or so that we would ask you to take a few minutes to give us some additional feedback on how you felt about the ZoomCasts and this specific topic. So please look for that and make sure that you take the few minutes to do that. I want to thank Kevin and Eric for taking time out of their busy schedules and being part of it. I think they shared some tremendously positive and helpful information. We look forward to continuing with providing resources. I know that there are a couple of questions out there in terms of how do you get the copy of the PowerPoint presentation and those types of things. We're going to be developing over the course of the next couple of weeks a comprehensive package of information, including some PowerPoint to be able to use at the local level, a mentor handbook, so to speak, that can be used as a guide and as a resource, and updating some of the other materials that will be a valuable resource for you. So again, stay tuned to usahockey.com and through your district referees and chiefs and so forth, and we'll get that information out to you. So once again, thanks Eric and Kevin. Thank you very much for all the participants for joining us tonight and for your continued dedication to USA Hockey. We hope that you've enjoyed the last hour and 5 minutes, hour 10 minutes here, and we look forward to seeing you on next week's ZoomCast. So thank you very much, and have a great night, and most importantly, be safe. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.